All right, we are going to be starting step number 4. We just finished sewing the outside seam of both of the pant legs. Now what we're going to work on is putting together the inside seam. So the first thing you need to do is take one of your legs, and we are going to open this up so that it makes a little long tube. And then what we need to do, because we want to make sure we are sewing the right sides together, is we're going to take the other pant leg and we are going to flip it inside out. So this way, when we put it inside of the tube, we will have the right sides facing each other, which is how we always want to sew. So we have that leg laying on the table like a tube. This one, we are now going to take, I think it's easiest to put your arm inside of the leg following the seam. I'm going to hold on to the bottom where the seam is at, and I'm going to be lining up this seam to this seam through the inside of the leg. So I'm going to take my arm all the way through to the bottom. We're lining up our little tubes, and we're going to shake this out to try to get the fabric to go into the center. We want to now line up the notches as well as the inside seam. So sewing inside seams together, you're going to notice here we have this seam and then we have the inside seam. Can you see nice and close how these two are lined up? So we're first going to hold this seam together. We can get a nice close-up here of this. So you have this inside seam. I'm just going to press that fabric out, and this inside seam, both lined up at the same place. We are going to put in a pin to hold this together right at the center. Now you are going to notice the notches that were on the side, we are going to match up here. So we're going to lay this fabric out. Those notches we cut earlier, perfect. Now we can make sure they're nice and lined up. We're going to go right to this end here. We're going to put a few more pins in all the way around. So you want to make sure there's no ridges in here because this is your inside crotch seam and you don't want it to be bulky. Okay, so we have this portion complete. Continuing around the circle, the same exact thing. Make sure the fabric is nice and straight. Match this notch with this notch, and then we'll go back and fill in the center pieces. As long as you cut this out properly, it should have no problem lining up. Going back to this top piece, up at this corner, making sure that is nice and straight, taking another pin here, and then again, in a few inches apart, we're going to continue to make sure that this is lined up and pinned all the way around. So now what we are going to end up doing is putting this into the machine, and we are going to end up sewing in just a moment around this whole ridge, around this U shape. That makes the inside seam. First, I'm going to finish putting a few more pins in, and then we'll pick up with stitching.